Hey y'all, how's everybody out there doing? Doing alright, I hope. I'm doing okay myself, I guess. Just really excited because I actually have my Music Monday videos already posted and it's just Sunday, so I'm doing good there. I don't I don't usually do this well with my videos. I'm usually running way behind, and sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm so far behind, I might as well not even post one today. But I actually have my Music Monday ones already on the channel. And they're both about the piece of music that I just composed. Um, it's Halloweeny. It's a little creepy, a little scary, especially at the very beginning. There's people screaming and things going on all around. So if you have small children or anything like that, or if you yourself don't like to be kind of creeped out or spooked, just be careful watching that. At the very beginning of it is a little screamy, but it turns out to be some pretty music, some hauntingly pretty music. But I did the video of it, and then I did another video of the making of it, and kind of showed you the whole process of going through the Soundtrap app or the website, whichever one you preferred to use. And just kind of went over a little bit of how to make your own music for your videos. It's a lot of fun. It's very entertaining, you know. Even if you don't use it on your videos, you can listen to it yourself and enjoy it. And it's just a lot of fun. So that's what my last two videos are about. And like I said, I already have videos planned for the rest of the week, and I'm probably going to record, after I do this one, I'm probably going to do one more for the week, and then later on in the week I'll record some more. It does take a bit of effort to do videos. I mean, it's you have to record them and then critique them and criticize yourself because you did this wrong or that wrong, and then record it again, or edit out things, and then you have to get it all edited and ready to go, and then it takes sometimes forever for it to upload from the app or the program that I use. It takes a little while for it to upload into my files on my computer to where I can transfer it to YouTube. So it's kind of a time-consuming thing. Then sometimes YouTube is just super slow getting it put on there, but I enjoy it. I love it. I still don't have very many subscribers. I don't get a whole lot of views or anything like that, but you know what? This is my channel, and this is what I enjoy doing, and I'm excited to do videos on here. And if people watch them and subscribe and like them, that's wonderful. But I'm not monetized, so I'm not in it for the money. Good thing, huh? Don't quit your day job. So I just do it because I enjoy it, and I really do enjoy it. And so with that being said, I will get on into today's video and get started on that. I want to give a shout out to a new channel. If any of you guys watch The Carpetbagger, Jacob the Carpetbagger. His girlfriend, Jenny, she has a new YouTube video, and she just did her first video, and it was really a lot of fun. She's such a cute, sweet person, and she's just beautiful soul. I just love her. When she joined Jacob the Carpetbagger on his videos, I was just like, oh wow, she's so awesome. But I just wanted to give a shout out to her new channel, because I think it's just really great, and I want to wish her the best of luck on your new channel. You don't know me, but I kind of have gotten to know you on Jacob's videos, so I just wanted to tell you that I hope you have a really successful channel. So if you guys haven't checked out that channel, it's Jenny Penny, and I guess the best way to look it up would be Jenny Penny, my new video, or my first video. Jenny Penny, my first video, because there's a lot of Jenny Pennies on there. I had a little bit of a time finding it, but just check it out. And I think she's going to be a lot of fun. Her channel is sounds like it's going to be a little bit like mine. It's a whole bunch of random stuff, and that's awesome. So yeah, I guess that's about all I wanted to to talk about there. And so I'm going to get right on into what today's video is and what it's all about. Today's video, Travel Tuesday video, is I'm going to start doing some more informational things, some more tips and everything on becoming a seasonal tour guide. That's what I mainly started my channel for, was to help people become, tour guide or whatever, seasonal worker. So the season is over in Alaska, specifically. Most of the time the season runs from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and so we just celebrated Labor Day, and now the season is pretty much over. There's still some cruise ships going into the different ports and things like that, but most of the excursions are done with. So those seasonal workers, a lot of them leave early because they have to get back to college and things like that. But so the seasonal workers will be leaving soon, the ones that haven't already. So it's time for you guys that want to be a tour guide in the 2023 season. It's time for you to start working on acquiring a position there. And the biggest thing is deciding where you want to go. Do your research, figure out what you want to do, where you want to go, all that kind of thing, and start saving your money for one thing. Start saving your money for getting there. And once you get there, it's going to be at least 2 weeks usually before you get your first paycheck. So you want to have enough money to get there and to survive for the first at least 2 weeks. And you may want to think about, if you're going to get a place to stay there, you can have an apartment or anything like that. You want to be sure that you have plenty of money saved up. This is my sister. You hear them a lot in there. Our apartment door and window and walls are very thin, so you'll hear them in there a lot. But my mom, she's watching MASH, I think. But if you're going, like I said, if you're going to go, be sure that you have enough money to get there. However you're going to decide to go, it's another thing you need to do too, is decide how you want to go. If you want to go the route to fly there, start checking your flights. You can even go as far as booking a flight early, or at least knowing, kind of basically how much it's going to cost you to fly. So you can either fly, you can fly into Washington, take the ferry up, or you can drive. You can drive, if you have your passport. I don't know what the requirements are at the borders right now, so you would have to check with that to make sure if you do or if you don't have your thing. You know what I'm talking about. If you have that or not, you need to find out if you can get into Canada with or without it, and whether you have to be tested or anything like that before you go in. It's still early yet, so things can change by then, so just be prepared for that. I would go ahead and get a passport and things like that, and have a backup plan. If you don't want to get the thing and you don't have a passport and you just want to get there an easier, quicker way, I would suggest flying, or either flying into Bellingham, Washington, and catching the ferry to wherever you're going. And again, I don't know what the requirements are going to be for the ferry or for the Marine Highway by the time everything, comes around. That's another 6-7 months away. So you want to have a backup plan. You want to be prepared for whatever you need to be prepared for. If you do take the ferry, just one thing I'll tell you, if you do take the ferry from Bellingham, Washington to Alaska somewhere, you don't have to have a passport. You can just stay on the boat when you go into the Canadian ports. If you have a passport, it's a lot of fun. If you have a passport, you can actually get off. You have to keep your passport and your boarding pass with you, and you can actually get off at the ports in Canada and look around, do whatever. But be sure, if you want to get off on those ports, that you do have your passport. Otherwise, you won't be able to to get off and see the ports in Canada. Also decide, if you have a pet, decide whether or not you're going to be taking your pet. If you're going to be taking your pet, you need to figure out what the travel requirements for your pet are going to be, and you're going to have a little extra money for your pet to fly with you too if you're flying. And if you're traveling on the ferry or the boat or flying or any of that stuff, you're usually required to have a travel voucher from your veterinarian saying that your dog is healthy and good to go, or your cat, or whatever you're taking, your monkey, your elephant, whatever you're taking with you. Make sure that you know what the requirements are to take your animal with you. And you also want to, if you want to take your animal, you need to find out in advance what work locations will allow you to have your pet. Now, if you're going to live, in your own apartment, you're going to have your own place, you're going to rent your own place or whatever, you can take your pet. I mean, that's not a problem at all. But you just want to make sure, if you're planning on saving your money and staying on in housing, in employee housing, you need to find out all about housing and all that kind of stuff. If you're a couple and you want to go together somewhere and you want to get, private housing and all of that stuff, you might want to check on that in advance too, because sometimes you're going to be sharing housing with other people. And if you want your privacy and you want your own housing, you might have to rent an apartment or something like that. So check on your housing situation, what it's going to be like when you get there. And I know it's early, but this is the time to start getting all this together, because it does take some time. You got to find out all these things. And then once you find out what your housing situation is going to be, you need to figure out how much money you're going to need for that. And you want to have that money put back. You want to, like I say, have enough to get there, enough to live there for 2 weeks, enough to eat for 2 weeks, have your food for 2 weeks. And if you're going to be searching for housing when you get there, you don't already have housing, you're going to be searching when you get there, you're going to probably want to rent a vehicle. So you want to keep in mind how much you're going to need to rent that car. You're just going to need to make a budget of how much you're going to need, and then start saving. Start saving. And once you figure that out and you've got your budget made, and you're going to start saving your money, then you need to start, like I said, decide where you want to go, what you want to do. And then once you figure that out, then you need to start watching coolworks.com for when the place that you want to work comes available. They start doing applications and things. Some of them start, like in December or January, they start posting. Some of them stay posted all year long. I know this year they didn't. Most of them never even took their job postings down because they never really got a full crew. So you wanna keep checking that coolworks.com. You wanna check any other work locations. If you get yourself a milepost magazine, you can look through there, and you can find all the different places, excursions, different things like that. And if you see one that looks interesting to you, you want to be a dog musher on the top of a glacier tour guide or whatever, and you see a place, you're like, oh, that's where I want to work, you need to start getting in contact with them. Start letting them know that you're interested in it. And then what you need to do, once you figure out where you're going to go and what you're going to do and everything, you need to start researching on where you're going to be. You need to just research all kinds of things. If you already know of a location that you want to go, you know exactly what you want to do, where you want to go, you need to get in contact with them and ask them if they have a scripted tour, or if you make up your own tour. If there's a scripted tour, and you're really interested in working there, you could possibly talk them into sending you, their script or whatever. A lot of times you don't get the advantage of that until you get there, and then on your orientation day, they'll give you the script outline, and you have to learn it pretty quickly. So either way that it works, whether it's scripted or non-scripted, you need to go ahead and start studying. You need to research everything imaginable about where you're going. You need to research the wildlife. You need to research, a lot of places require you to know a lot of history about where you're going. So you want to learn some history about it. And if you're not really sure what to learn, what to study, or what to research, you can always kind of call the place where you want to work, maybe, or get in touch with them, send them an email or whatever, and ask them, what are their tour guide requirements, what do they require you to talk about, and how long their tours are, and things like that, because you're going to need to make yourself your own kind of script, not a strict script, but just something, a guideline of what you need to research. And then you need to start researching. You need to go to the library, get your library card, go to the library, do some research, like I said, on the area, the just everything imaginable, because people will ask you all kinds of questions. And the more you can learn between now and the time that they actually start hiring and doing interviews, you're going to feel more comfortable in your interview, because a lot of these places, in my experience, places that I've worked, they've asked me questions about different things, and they've the last one I worked at for the train for Premier Cruise Alaska, they actually were Tours Alaska. They had me do a presentation. I had to do a presentation on permafrost, and they do it just basically to see if you're a good public speaker, if you are really interested in it. They know that you've already learned about permafrost, and that you've already learned some things. So you need to be really ready to go at the drop of a hat. You need to know a lot about the area that you're going to. You'll learn a lot while you're there, because usually you'll have at least a week, usually 2 weeks, to train and to go over the information that they have. They'll give you time to go to their local library. Usually, some of them, if they have the time. A lot of times you're busy doing other things, like if you're doing a boat tour or something like that, you're busy getting the boat ready for the water, or you're ready getting the train ready for the tracks or whatever. A lot of times, when I went to Sitka to work for Allen Marine Tours, we actually painted the boat. They repainted the boat to get it into water. And you do all kinds of things. When I went to Black Diamond to do the horse wagon tours, I was underneath the restaurant doing plumbing work. I just you do everything imaginable. We burned the tall grass off the golf course. We put up fences for the horses. We cleaned and got the housing ready. We did all sorts of things for that job. Once you first get there, you have your orientation, you start learning your stuff, and then part of your day is spent, learning what your job is going to be, and then also doing whatever needs to be done in order to get the place opened and running on time. And so a lot of times when you first get there, if you go to Alaska, if you first get there, a lot of times there's still snow on the ground, things are still frozen, and you've got to get things ready. You've got to clean the snow off the stuff. You've got to get under there and check all the plumbing and make sure that the pipes haven't cracked or busted during the winter time. And there's just all sorts of things that comes into play when you first get there. You're going to be doing all kinds of jobs, but you're also going to be having time to learn your job also. And you're going to also be taking first aid classes anywhere you go. You're going to be, a lot of times you can take them in advance, but they usually always will do a hands-on first aid class once you get there. You're going to need your food workers card, which you can usually get that over the internet before you get there, and also your TAP card or your alcohol service card, which you'll need all of those if you work in Alaska. I don't know what the other states' requirements are, because I've always just worked in Alaska or in Tennessee, and it depends on what job you have as to whether you need a TAP card or a food and beverage card. But in Alaska, it is required to have those things. Pretty much no matter what job you're working, you have to have a food service card and a TAP card and your first aid. So you want to make sure that you are prepared and ready for those things. And just start researching, because a lot of times, like I told before on one of my other videos, when I went to Healy to work on the covered horse wagon tour, that was my first trip to Alaska and my first job in Alaska, my first tour guide jobbing in Alaska. And we were supposed to have a naturalist come and train us and everything, and well, the naturalist didn't show up. So we had to fend for ourselves, and we had to learn on our own. And luckily, I took just tons and tons and tons of information and books and things like that. And then there was a couple other people that had worked there before, and they knew, a lot of stuff. So they kind of stepped in and trained us a bit too. But the more you know when you get there, the easier it is to learn what you don't know. You have, that extra space in your head where you can store the new stuff that you're learning. Where, if you go there and you don't know anything, you don't even know, anything about where you're at or anything, you're just going to have trouble, because you really need to study and research and learn things before you go. It's just the smart thing to do. And like I told in some of my other videos, you need to just be prepared for anything. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and everybody works as a team, and you don't just say, oh, I don't know how to do plumbing, or I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to do that, because they're going to send you under there with someone who does, and they're going to teach you how to do it. It's just the way it is. You're gonna be involved in doing a lot of stuff for these places. And once that's done with, once you've researched, you got your money started, you're learning and figuring out where you want to work and all of that, you need to keep track of when they start doing interviews and things like that, and you want to get your foot in the door real quick on the interviews and stuff, because a lot of times they hire pretty quickly, and so you want to make sure that you're way up there on the top of some of the first people they interview. And like I said, preparing to go there and everything, you need to also prepare yourself for the area that you're going to. You may be going to a remote area where there's not any Wi-Fi or any phone or anything like that for, a little while, or very, very sketchy internet, very sketchy phone service. It's gotten a lot better than when the first time that I went there, back 15 years ago. The first time I went, they didn't have any phone service where I was at. There was very, very bad Wi-Fi dial-up service still, and everything like that. I mean, you would drive down the main highways, and there's payphones everywhere, Everybody had cell phones, but you couldn't use them in Alaska. And so you want to be prepared for that, and if you have anything going on that you need to get taken care of, and tie up all the loose ends of whatever you've got going on, you need to do that too, because you may not have extremely good communications once you get there. If you're in around Anchorage or something like that, some of the bigger Fairbanks, some of the bigger cities, you will have pretty good phone service most of the time, and Wi-Fi, of course. And there are places, even in Healy now, that you can go. Even when I was there, though, you could go to the library, and they had pretty good Wi-Fi. It was dial-up still, but there's places you can figure out where you can go and use the phone and Wi-Fi and stuff. But I'm just letting you know that it's not the greatest of service once you get there. And another thing, too, remember that you won't get paid, like I said, until at least 2 weeks after you've started there, so be sure you have your extra money for that. And what else? Just be prepared, like I said, to just go with the flow, and just appreciate where you are, and don't over expect things. You don't want to be disappointed, so, and just just go, with the expectations that it's going to be whatever it is, basically. And just start preparing, start buying up some stuff that you want to take with you. And that way you don't have to do it all at the end when you get ready to leave. And, prepare, like I said, once you get there, depending on where you're going. That's why it's really important to research where you want to go, research the area. How far is it to a grocery store? How far is it to a bank? How far is it, to different locations? And that will kind of tell you where you want to work, whether you want to be really, really remote. There's places there that fly you into where you're going to be working, and you stay out there pretty much the whole season. You might get to come in on a flight every once in a while, but if you're on one of the islands, like one of the fishing resorts or camps or whatever, you're going to be very remote, and you're going to fly into Anchorage. They're going to pick you up, and they're going to fly you to wherever you're going to go work. And those places are very, very remote. They don't have phone service. They don't have Wi-Fi, and so they don't have TV or anything like that. So that's why it's so important for you to research where you want to go and research the area and what's going on and everything. You may see a really cool, oh wow, this fishing resort looks amazing. I want to go there. It's beautiful. And then when you fly into Anchorage and they come and they pick you up and they say, okay, we're going to fly out to the island now, and you're going to be out there for 3 months. So make sure you have everything you need. And you're going to go, what? What? Nobody told me it was on an island. Well, that's for you to, research and find out a lot of that. They will tell you, though, of course. In your interview, they're going to tell you that it's an island. But I'm just using that for an example to just be prepared, just research. And find out where you really want to go, and you'll be a lot happier if you research where you want to go, research the company, research the location where they are, and all that kind of stuff before you get started doing interviews and things like that. And go prepared. Don't go prepared thinking, oh, I'm going to make this much money every week or every day or whatever on tips and things like that, because as I've said in some of my other videos, there's going to be days when you're going to make really good tips. There's going to be days that you don't. There might be several days in a row that you don't make good tips. There's going to be maybe several days in a row that you make really good tips. Don't depend on your tips to get you by. Depend on your hourly wage, and just don't think that you're going to make a lot of money on your tips, and then your tips are just extra money, and that's really awesome. Like I said, you're going to have days where you just do amazing tours and nobody tips you, and there's several reasons for that. It's not necessarily you. And you'll know that when they start getting off the boat or the train or whatever you're doing. They start getting off and they start telling you, oh, that was the best tour I've ever been on. They start giving you hugs, and they start, oh, you need to come to my house, and you need to be my personal tour guide next time I go on vacation. I mean, they'll tell you all kinds of things, and it makes you feel really good, but then there's no tips involved, and there's several reasons for that. Like I said, it's not necessarily you. You didn't do anything wrong or anything. A lot of times people are from other countries that don't traditionally tip, and they just don't think about it. That's one reason. Another reason is sometimes on the ship there gets to be a miscommunication that people think that their gratuities, all their gratuities are include excursions, and they don't. On most ships, tips don't include excursions. And there's a tip, like I know when I went on Shiprocked cruise, when you go on there, they automatically take so much money out of your account, whatever, each day for tips, and those are for the people on the boats. That's for the people that stand around and spray sanitizer on your hands. That's for the people that clean the bathrooms. That's for the waiters, the waitresses. That's for those people. Those tips that come out of your account every day are not for the excursions that you take. And a lot of times people don't realize that, and they think that the cruise ship is going to, pay us for our tips or whatever. But that's not the case at all. Sometimes, once in a while, the tour director on the cruise ships, the one that actually goes out on the excursions with people, if you've ever been on a cruise ship, you know what I'm talking about. There's a tour director that will sometimes go out with you on the excursions. And a lot of times they'll take up the tips. And if they take up the tips, they'll put them in an envelope and they'll give them to us after the tour. But a lot of times, and I'm not saying anything bad about people or anything like that, I'm not accusing people of anything, but sometimes those envelopes of tip money do not make it to your tour guide. It's just a fact of life. So a lot of times that money won't make it to you. Somebody decides that they're going to keep it, and it does happen. Believe me, it happens. It's happened to me before. And you can't be reliant on getting a lot of tips, because things do happen and you don't get tips. And then there are some cruise ships that actually will tell the passengers that you shouldn't take any cash with you. Don't take any cash with you. Just take your card that the cruise ship gives you that they load with money, and don't take any cash with you. So a lot of times people don't know that they're going to need to tip you, and they don't bring cash money with them. So a lot of times people just don't have it. Sometimes people have just tipped out. They don't have any tip money left, or something like that, and you don't want to make those people feel bad because they're not tipping you. So a lot of times you won't get tip money from them. Usually on the excursions, when you're doing a tour, you are not allowed to ask for tips. Tips are something that if the person wants to tip you, they can. And a lot of times, or if they know that they're supposed to tip you, they will. Other times, there are cruises and things like that will tell the people that $2 is all that you need to tip someone. And that's cool. I mean, you should tip $2 a person if you tip that way. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. A lot of times, people just don't know that they're supposed to. And like I said, we're not allowed to ask for tips. We're not allowed to hint towards tips or anything like that. So, and on the train, when you work on the train, people may have ridden the actual Alaska Railroad Company trains. And when they're riding, say, a Princess Tour train or a Premier Cruise or Premier Alaska Cruise train, like the Wilderness Express, which what I worked on, a lot of times they may have already ridden the Alaska Railroad, and Alaska Railroad, their train cars are controlled by the state of Alaska. And if the state of Alaska, if you work for the state of Alaska, you're not allowed to take tips. It's actually against the law for an employee of the state of Alaska to take tips on the train. So a lot of people may have ridden the Alaska Railroad train cars and thought, oh well, I can't tip the Princess people, or I can't tip the Premier Cruise people, the Wilderness Express. I can't tip them because it's against policy. So a lot of times they'll think that too, and so if you're working on a train or anything like that, that may be why you didn't get any tips, because people have already ridden another one and realized that, oh, we're not supposed to tip. And a lot of people think sometimes that the price of the excursion includes the tip, since the price of the cruise includes a tip. Then they think that the price of the excursion also pays the tip. And once in a while, sometimes, certain ships, that is the case. And they will, like I said, they will sometimes give you an envelope with the tip money in it. But, like I said, a lot of times that doesn't make it to the tour guide. So you just want to make sure that you're not going over there and figuring all your budget and your bills and everything and thinking, okay, well, I'm going to make this amount per hour, and I'm going to make $50 a day or $100 a day in tips. So, oh yeah, I'm going to have a lot of extra money. Don't go over there thinking that. Don't go anywhere and do tour guiding and think that you're going to make a steady amount of income from tips, because you're just not going to. Like I said, some days you may make $500, $600 a day on tips. Other days you'll make zero, and you may go through a whole week of not making any tips. You just have to go over there prepared, knowing that you may or you may not make tips, and you just don't want to depend on that for part of your income. So yeah, you just want to be aware of that. Another thing too to check on or research before you go to a place is the price of groceries and things like that. All you have to do is, once you decide on a place you want to go, just find the local grocery stores close to that area and look at their weekly ad, or just go to their website and look at the prices of their groceries, because that's another thing you need to be aware of. Is some areas, some states, some areas, groceries are more than other places, and you might be used to living in one of the states where the groceries are reasonable, and you're going to want to know that where you're going, you're going to spend more on groceries than you do normally. So you just want to, like I said, be prepared with your money, have a budget on your hourly wage, not your tips. Always just have your budget on your hourly wage. That's very, very important. Now, you will have times when you can get overtime. You can work an extra shift, or you can work an extra tour, or something like that, and you get overtime. They will pay you overtime if you work overtime. But that's also not something that you should depend on. You should depend on working your hours that you think you're going to be working, or that the company where you want to work has told you you're going to make this much per hour and you're going to get this many hours per week. They're pretty good about giving you at least 40 hours a week because, especially now that they're kind of shorthanded and everything. I recently talked to a lot of people that I worked with and worked for in Alaska, and they've all pretty much told me that they were short people, just like everywhere else. They were shorthanded, and they got in a lot of hours, and they had a kind of lean year as far as tips go, just because people just don't have the money to tip like they do sometimes. You have to take that into consideration, what the economy is, what you think it's going to be like once you're working there, because you can't really fault people if they just don't have the money to tip you. At least they're paying for the excursion, so you're getting paid, and just take it at that. And they're gonna, if you do a good tour and they can't afford a tip, or they don't know they're supposed to tip you or whatever like that, they're still gonna appreciate you, and they're gonna praise you, and they're gonna give you hugs when they get off. And that, to me, that's my gratification right there. I just love that. I just love when people get off and they're like, oh, you know what, I've got a grandson around your age, or I've got a nephew that I think you would get along really well with him. They try to set you up with family members, and when somebody tries to do that, they really liked you. So you make a big impression on people in just a very short amount of time, and when they get off of there and they're just blown away by you and the tour you gave and everything like that, that's what you should really be thankful for. That's what you should be grateful for, that kind of gratitude. And if you're going to be a tour guide anywhere, if you're going to be a tour guide and you're going with expectations of making a lot of money, and that's the only reason you're going to do it, don't do it. Do it because you enjoy sharing wonderful things with people, and you like making people happy, you like giving people memories that they'll remember for the rest of their lives, and things like that. That's what you need to go to be a tour guide for. I've found that the happiest tour guides and the best tour guides out there are the ones who, really are not worried about how much money they make in tips. So, and I'll give you some hints and tips and things on how to make good tips, also, while we're on the subject. So, one of the ways that you can make really good tips on a tour, as a tour guide, is be aware of the people getting on your boat or your train, or whatever you're doing, as a tour guide. Make sure that your guests are seem to be there because they want to be there. They're happy. They're really looking forward to it. If you have someone who, which I saw a lot of, was men who would rather have taken a fishing excursion, their wives just basically made them go on the tour, and they're just like, I don't want to be here. This is not a tour for me, or whatever. If you see those people, you can pick them out. A lot of times they'll actually say it. My wife made me come. I don't want to be here today. And those people are the ones that you want to kind of spend some extra time with, and you want to make sure that they're going to go away with a gratitude that they actually went on the tour, instead of, oh, that was horrible. You want to make sure that those people really, really enjoy their tour. You want to spend a little extra time with them. And maybe a teenager. A lot of times I had teenagers on there that were just not interested in it at all. They just were forced to go to Alaska. They were forced to go on excursions. They were forced to do this. They were forced to do that. And, they're just like standoffish, and, they may have on, a rock and roll shirt or something like that. And if you, acknowledge them and just say, oh, wow, man, I love that band. They're so awesome. I love that song, or this or that. Or if they, got on some shoes that you can tell they bought for the tour or whatever, for the cruise or whatever, you can say, oh, wow, I love your shoes. Or, just talk to them and find out, how they are, and just, just talk to them and make them feel like, oh, wow, I was special on this tour today, and that was great. That's one way to make tips from their parents, is to make their kids happy. If you got a screaming child on there, I always kept some little things on my tours, coloring books or something to keep the little kids interested. And so if they started, crying or throwing a fit or getting bored or whatever, I always had something for them to do, and that always gets a good tip from the parents too. If you are interested in making their kids happy, even if it doesn't make them happy, you at least tried, and people really recognize that, and they will tip you for that also, because who wants to be on an excursion when your kid is just super unhappy and bored and everything? And once your tour guide makes it better, you're gonna want to compensate them a little bit more. So that's another way to get good tips on a cruise. And another thing is, I talked about this once before, is don't talk over the experience. Like, if you are on a whaleboat and you see a whale, you point it out, you just get excited. You're like, oh my gosh, there's a whale, you guys, look, it's breaching, it's awesome, look at the whale, you guys. And don't worry about going into, oh, look, it's a whale, it's breaching, they do this to communicate, they can weigh up to 30,000 pounds, they can weigh 52 tons, they can be 75 feet long. You don't want to go into all of that stuff while they're enjoying the experience, because, like I said, if you start talking, they're going to feel like they're supposed to be watching you. And when they turn around to watch you talk, and that whale does a backflip, and they're turning around, they're looking at you because you're talking, and they feel like they need to be looking at you when you're talking, and they miss that. That's really bad. You don't want to do that. You want to just get excited, tell them there's a whale, let them watch it, let them take pictures. Now, if you see someone having trouble with their camera or something like that, you can go over and you can, talk to them one-on-one and help them with their camera or whatever, but don't try to talk over the experience. If it's an experience that they're having, if they're watching a whale, or they're watching a bear, or they're watching whatever they're watching, you don't want to talk over that experience. You want to let them have the experience. And then once the experience is over, then you will start, telling them a few things about the animal or whatever it was that they saw. You can then start saying, "Oh wow, that was so cool. You guys are so lucky you got to see that today," and those things are amazing. And just, then start into with, "Wow, did you guys know that they can actually be like 30,000 pounds, 30 tons, 52 feet in length," whatever you want to say to them. Whatever you've got memorized that you can tell them about it, then you tell them about it. And you don't want to go too long with what you're talking about. You don't want to talk about something after an experience for, 20, 30 minutes after it's happened. You tell them a little bit about it, and then you ask if anybody has any questions. And, that's how you fill in your time. If you're, like I said, if you're talking over an experience and people turn around and they're looking at you and they miss something, they're not going to be wanting to tip you at all. They're going to be angry with you. They're probably going to want to throw you off the boat if you make them miss a whale doing a backflip because you were talking over the experience. So let them have the experience that they came out there to have. They didn't come out there, honestly, in all honesty, they did not come out there to find out how much a whale weighs or how long a whale is or anything like that, because they can Google all of that. That's not what they came out here on the boat to experience. They came out to see one fly out of the water, to hear it, to smell it, to experience it. And when you take that away by starting in all that stuff that they could learn off of Google, that ruins the experience. So let them experience it and then tell them some quick things. And like I said, don't overwhelm them with information on anything. If someone has more questions, if they're interested in something and they want to know a little bit more about it, they're going to ask you. So that's another way to get tipped really well, is to just let them experience things. Don't talk over it. And don't make them miss anything. Make sure they don't miss anything. And then the other thing, like I said, was if you see someone having trouble with their camera, or if you're around and you hear somebody talking to someone and they're like, "Did you get some good pictures?" and they're like, "No, man, I didn't get any good pictures. They're blurry. They're just not good at all," then stop and ask them, like, "Oh, do you know what setting you have your camera on, or your phone, or whatever you're using?" And a lot of times they'll say, "What do you mean settings?" Or you can ask them, "What do you have it on, high definition, HD?" And a lot of times they'll go, "What is that? What is HD? What is high definition?" And I've run across this a lot. People do not realize that your phone camera has a lot of great features. Even some of the cheaper phones, the really inexpensive phones, a lot of them have some really cool features and some settings that you can set. And that's another thing too, before you go, is research cameras, research phones, research all of that stuff. Learn how to work a camera. Learn everything there is to know about iPhones, about Samsung, about all of them. Learn what all the settings on their cameras are on their phones, and also learn the basics on cameras. Learn the settings, because if you help someone out with their phone or their camera and you help them get better pictures than they've been getting the whole cruise they've been on. And I had a lady actually, this is a true story, I had a lady actually cry over a picture that she took after I reset her phone on another setting, because she didn't know that her settings were just below minimum, basically. Her phone was just set on standard picture, nothing good. So I showed her on her phone how to set it. I showed her. She also had the flash on in broad daylight, taking a picture of a whale with a flashlight, with a flash on in the daytime, and it was terrible. And she was just, I'm not even gonna try to take any more pictures. This is awful. And so I showed her how to set her phone on a better setting. I showed her how to do HD. I showed her how to take the flash off and leave it off, and how to turn it back on when she wanted to turn it on when she was actually in the dark. And I showed her all about her phone camera. And just about the time I got finished telling her all about the camera, this whale, this humpback, came up right beside our boat. It came up, went down, came up, and I told her, I said, "Okay, he's going to do that," because I knew which whale this was. And I said, "He's going to do that 4 times. He's going to come way up out of the water, after the fourth time of going in and out, I said he's going to come way up out of the water. He's going to take a deep breath. You're going to hear that breath. And then he's going to go down and he's going to fluke. He's going to show the backside of his tail, his fluke. So I told her, I said, get ready, you know, get your finger ready. And he went up, came down, went up, came down, went up, came down, went up, came down. And then he went way up out of the water and he took that deep breath. You could hear it. You could just to feel the intensity of it. And this was about 15 feet from our boat. He had came over to us. And so she was ready. He came up out of the water, and when he did, he fluked. He just showed his tail in all its glory, and she got a picture of it. And she literally cried because that was the best picture that she had gotten her whole cruise, and she was on like her 4th day of her cruise, but all of her pictures had turned out just horrible, and she thought it was her camera or her. And so that is the kind of things that will get you tips, and that will also get you to feeling so emotionally good about yourself. You're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I made this lady happy, you know. And that's the thing you got to go to be a tour guide, is going to make people happy and to give them memories that they will remember forever. And so I did. She gave me a hug like right away, and she was just crying because she was just like, I can't believe I took a picture this good, you know. And it was all it was a setting on her phone was wrong, you know. And so before you go, research phones a little bit, research cameras a little bit, and learn about the settings like that, because a lot of times you're going to have to help people with that kind of thing, and that's going to bring you in some extra tips. See what else. Just the biggest thing is just paying attention to your guests. You can tell. You know, I'm an empath and I can feel people, so I may have, you know, a little more advantage over some people. But I can usually look at all my guests and I can feel out and tell which ones are there because they want to be, and which ones are there because they have to be, and which ones are there for various reasons, and whether they're, you know, having a good experience or whether they're not having a good experience. If you just are very observant of the people that you're serving as a tour guide, then you're going to be able to connect with people better. You're going to be able to help them have a better experience just by knowing that they're not having a great experience at the moment. And that's going to get you better tips also. I think I told this story before, but I have those little pamphlet things, those little pamphlets with the plastic on them, laminated. I can think of the word laminated. They're little laminated pamphlets. They're just real simple. They got all the birds and they got what they are and just some few little, you know, facts about them. And I have those. They're like an accordion thing, and I showed them on one of my other videos. I have a ton of those on all kinds of different things. And I noticed this one lady was really watching the birds. And a lot of times on those excursions, on the cruises and things like that, people really aren't that interested in the birds. Come on, I mean, they're just birds. You see them everywhere. You see seagulls at all the, you know, every beach in the world. And, you know, you see birds and people are just like, I love birds myself, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything about it, but a lot of people on those things, they're not interested in birds. And so this little lady, I noticed that she was just so into the birds. And she had her binoculars and she was looking and everything, and her husband, I stopped and talked to him, and I'm like, is she really into birds a lot? And he's like, yeah, she loves birds. And he says, but she doesn't know, you know, what a lot of these birds here in Alaska are. We've never seen a lot of these birds. We're from Florida, and we've never seen, you know, puffins and this and that. We don't know, you know, not much about them, a lot of these birds that we're seeing. And so I went and I got my little accordion pamphlet, and I took it over there, and I was like, would you like to use this while you're on the boat? I said, you know, I don't do a lot about birds on the boat because just people just are here to see whales and sea lions and sea otters, and they really could care less about birds. I mean, they do get excited when they see puffins and murres and stuff like, or not murres, but yeah, murres. When they see those, you know, they're kind of excited about them because they're unique, or when they see a bald eagle or something like that. But when they see some of the others, like the cormorants and, you know, just your other seabirds, they're not interested in me talking about them a lot. That's not what they're there for. So I would give this lady, and it would take you a month of Sundays, it would take you a year of Sundays to to tell everybody what all the birds in Alaska were. There's so many birds there. But I gave that little pamphlet to her, and I said, here, why don't you use this while you're on the boat? It tells you what the birds are that you're seeing and a little bit about each one of them. That lady was so excited. She was so happy. And then her husband was just like, that was super nice of you. He came back later, and he was just talking to me. And when they got off the boat, he handed me $100 bill. And he told me, he's like, you know, you really, really made my wife's trip. And she's, you know, she's ill and everything. And, you know, this really, really made her happy and really was wonderful. So he gave me that money, and I'm just like, no, sir, I can't take that, you know. And he's like, yes, you can, and you will. So he ended up giving me a $100 tip just for letting that lady use my little booklet that I had. So that's another thing too. If you go and you're going somewhere where there's wildlife or trees or flowers or anything, look on Amazon. You can find them on there. They're just, I think they're called Naturalist Accordion books or something. Naturalist laminated books or something like that. I don't know. But go on there and see if you can find some. And I would order you some of those. I would order a bird one. I would order a wildlife one. Trees. Flowers. Whatever you can find. I would order a few of those to take with you. And if you see someone on one of your tours that just seems very, very interested in something that you're not going to be talking a lot about, just hand them that book and say, here, you can use this while you're on the excursion, and you know, just give it to me when you get off. And yeah, so that's another way to get good tips, is just being aware of people and just catering to them and showing them, you know, that you care whether they have a good time or not. If you're up there and you're being a tour guide and you're just doing your spiel and you just don't even care if those people have a good time or not, you know, that man's grouchy and that lady's, you know, she's not very nice, and you know, just don't think of it that way. Go to those people and find out why they're feeling the way they are, and see if there's anything that you can do to help them to have a good time. That's all it takes sometimes, is just a little extra time with somebody, and you know, just showing somebody a little kindness, a little extra attention is sometimes what some people need. And so, you know, just be nice and just be aware of how your guests are reacting and everything like that. If you see someone who looks like they're maybe getting a little bit of seasickness or something like that, that's another thing. Is Walmart has them. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them in a lot of different places, but they're called Gin-Gins or Gingy Chews or something like that. They're ginger. They're pure ginger in a chew form, and those things are miracle workers. I think I've actually talked about these once before, but those things are miracle workers. And if you see someone getting a little bit seasick or whatever, you can give them one of those, and within a few minutes, I've never seen anyone that they didn't work on, ever. They've always worked on everybody that I've used them on. They're a little strong. They're very gingery, but they work. If you give someone one of those when they're feeling a little bit woozy, and you give them one of those and they get to feeling better and they get to enjoy their trip and not be sick, they're going to be so thankful, and you're going to be thankful too. And if you're on a boat, your deckhand is going to be thankful too, because you're not going to have something to clean up. And they're going to have a good time. They're going to have an amazing time, and that's going to get you more tips too. But you have to be aware of that too, because a lot of people won't tell you, oh, I'm not feeling well. A lot of people, it's against their ego or their pride or something. I don't know. They're just embarrassed to say, oh, I'm getting sick. And it doesn't happen just on the boat. It can happen on a bus. It can happen on a train. It can happen anywhere. People can get motion sickness, and those Gingy Chews will take care of it. I think they're called Gin-Gins, but you can find them. They're in a green package. I'll show them to you sometime. I have some. I always keep them with me. When I worked on the boat, they actually, when I very first started there, they had a few, but they ran out of them, and they never did order any more back in. So I actually ordered some from Amazon, and I had some on hand all the time. and I make sure that any tour that I take, any trip that I take, any tour that I do, I have those gins with me, because those those work miracles, and that will help you to get tips too. Is just by helping someone not get sick, and it'll help you too. So that's another thing that you need to do, to have. What else? Just like I said, just, don't over talk experiences. Don't say too much. Answer questions. Spend time with people. Show some people, a little extra care. So for one example, is there was a teenage girl on one of my tours, and she was just like on her phone, had her face in her phone, she's just like, oh my gosh, I have to be here, and she actually had on a Seven Dust shirt. I love Seven Dust, the band. And I was like, oh wow, I love Seven Dust, and I was like, they're so cool. And I said, I actually know LaJean and stuff, and she's like, really? And then I pulled up a picture of myself with LaJean. I'm like, yeah, see? And then she was like, oh, you're so cool, and she got to talking to me, and we got to talking a lot, and by the time we finished getting to know each other and talking a little bit, she's like, you know what, I want to be a tour guide when I get older. And so I gave her all the information for Cool Works, and hopefully maybe she did make something of it. So if you're watching out there, hi. I think her name was Elise. That was her name, Elise. And she ended up loving it. She ended up going up to the top deck with me and looking for whales, and she just became kind of like my tour guide helper. I think she was 15, but she got on there just hating life, I don't want to be here kind of thing, and this isn't going to be cool or anything like that. And then we got up there on the top deck, and we found a raft of sea otters, and she got to see a sea lion on a buoy, and she just fell in love with it. And like I said, by the time we got back to shore, she was ready to be a tour guide herself. So and her parents were just so grateful, and I think they ended up giving me like $50 or something in tips. So just be aware of people, and like I said, there's some people that require more niceness or more attention, or just acknowledgement that they're there and everything. Yeah, so that's just some tips and hints on how to get some better tips. But like I said, don't depend on them. Don't go there thinking that you're gonna, just because you're nice to everybody and you're doing a great job and everything else, that you're gonna be guaranteed tips, because it just doesn't work that way. You either get them or you don't, and you just move on to the next tour. If you don't get any tips, just say, oh, that was a great tour, I had so much fun, it was awesome. That's another thing too. You got to go out there and you got to have fun yourself. You got to go out there like it's the first time you've ever been on a boat in your life, and you're just enjoying it. It's the first whale you've ever seen, and you got to have that excitement. And for me, that's not an act or anything like that. Every single time I see pretty much any kind of wildlife, I get excited. But that's just me. I love wildlife. I have deer right in my front yard all the time. Almost every day you see a deer in this neighborhood somewhere, and every time I see one, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's a deer. Oh look, it's a deer. It's so pretty. Even the squirrels. I get excited to see squirrels, and we have squirrels on our balcony eating our bird feed all the time. But I just, you got to get excited yourself, or it's not going to work. You can't be on the whale watching boat and go, oh look guys, there's a humpback. It's like the 50th one I've seen this week. Can't be like that. You gotta just, I get excited. I'll sometimes be jumping up and down. I'm so excited, and I'm just like, oh gosh, look, a whale. And then once, like I said, once I show it to them and they see it and they're watching it and they're all running over to the side of the boat and the boat's tipping one side, you're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to talk right now, because these people are enjoying the moment, enjoying the experience. So don't ever talk over the experience. And like I said, once you do start talking about it, don't go overboard, because people aren't going to remember a whole lot. And like I said, they can Google all this information. It's just entertainment. You want to entertain people, and and give them some cool things. That's why it's so important to deep research. Research. Deep. Go deep. Go learn things about things that aren't just on Google. Pick up some books and go in there and really go deep on on animals, certain things. Another thing too is have some hands-on items. Have some on my boat that I worked on, Allen Marine Tours. They actually had whale baleen. It was huge. It was like 5 feet long. It was huge. It had hairs on it. You know, it was the baleen out of the whale's mouth. And I would take that around, pass it around, and tell people all about the baleen. Not just, you know, seeing the whale and everything, but you tell them about different parts of the whale. Like, this is the baleen. This is in their mouth. They have this instead of teeth. It's a filtration system for the krill or whatever they're eating. And you tell them, explain about that, and then you pass it around. You let every single person on your excursion, on your cruise or your tour, you let every single person be able to touch it if they want to. Some people don't want to touch it. They're like, oh gosh, what's that? That's awful. I don't want to touch that. I had a little vial of krill so that I could show people what the whales eat. And that was just, they were amazed by that. I had just all sorts of things as hands-on material just to show people and let them see it and pass it around and everything. And that's a big plus right there too. So if you can, whale baleen is hard to find. It's really hard to find. But if you find somewhere where you can buy maybe, I don't know, a moose pelt or just something that's something for them to touch and feel, that's going to help you too. So yeah, just any kind of little things like that you can do. Like I said, having coloring books for children and things like that, little books for them to read. You can give them your little accordion pamphlets too. They can't hurt them. So you can give them those, or you can, talk to them, or, just something you can do to help little children if they get bored or whatever. I always have something for people. So I guess that's pretty much it. As far as tips, I may think of some more later and I'll put it on the next one. I think the next one for next Tuesday, I think my next Tuesday travel is going to actually be a mock-up tour. I know I've been saying a lot about mock-up tours and I haven't done one yet, but I think next Tuesday is going to be a mock-up tour of Sitka Sound, like if you were on a whale watching boat. Of course, I'm going to condense it down, 3 hours, because tours are 3 hours, just like Gilligan's Island, 3-hour tour. But I'm going to condense it down a little bit and just go through the whole spiel of it. And then those you guys that are wanting to learn how to do tours and to learn kind of what to talk about, and maybe you want to work in Sitka or on a whale watching boat somewhere, I'm going to give you some really cool information about that. I'm going to help you research, basically. So definitely, if you're interested in being a tour guide somewhere, keep checking back on my channel, because I'm going to be posting a little bit more now that I'm trying to get vamped up for 2023 season. Because if any of you want to go over there to Alaska or wherever you want to go and work for the 2023 season, I want you to be prepared. I want you to know what you're going into there and know what to expect. Because if it's your first time, you're really going to want to tune in, because I'm going to give you some great tips and some great information. And like I said, I'm going to help you research. And once jobs start coming in, I'll start telling you about some cool jobs that are listed, in case you are totally overwhelmed with what's on coolworks.com. I can kind of narrow that down to some really good places for you to work. And yeah, things like that. I'll probably even research as much as how much it costs to do the ferry next year, what rent is going for, that kind of thing, and I'll kind of bring you up to date on that kind of stuff too. I just want to help people do what they want to do. I love tour guiding. It's just when I wish that I had started tour guiding when I was a lot younger. I would have started tour guiding right out of high school. Things, my life had been different, but you know, it kind of turned out to be what it is. But once I found tour guiding and did it my first season, I was super nervous. I was just petrified because I had never done it, for one thing. Well, I had done it a little bit. I had worked driving like a little tour van or something around Cades Cove, but when I went to Alaska, I had no idea what it was going to entail. I didn't know anything about Alaska. I had never been to Alaska before. I had never been a covered horse wagon tour guide. You know, I never been around Percherons and American Belgian horses. They're 3,000 pounds, and you know, there were so many new things for me I had never done before. But you know, I wanted to go to Alaska. I wanted to see Alaska, and so that was the best way to do it, because that way you can work your shift during the week, and for most times the excursions, they'll try to give you 2 days off in a row. So, and Alaska, you know, you can leave when you get off work, and you can travel. You can drive pretty much all night because it doesn't get dark, so you're not driving in the dark or anything, so you're going to see everything. When I go on a trip and it gets dark, I'm ready to pull over and sleep somewhere or stay somewhere until it gets daylight again, so that I don't miss anything, because I don't like missing anything, especially if it's somewhere I've never been before. I want to see everything, you know. And so in Alaska, you don't really have that problem in the summertime, because it's daylight until, say, 3 o'clock in the morning, and 3 o'clock in the morning it goes twilight, kind of dark, and then by 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning it's daylight again. So you know, you can drive all night long and not miss anything, and then you can sleep a couple hours and drive some more and go see what you want to see, and then head back to work for the next day that you have to work after your 2 days off. So it's a great way to be able to go and see Alaska and have the money to do it, and to have plenty of time, rather than just going there for a week or two and, you know, getting to see a limited amount of things. You've got to actually have the whole summer season to see things. And so, yeah, it's a great thing to do. But once I found tour guiding, once I went, I almost backed out a couple of times, but I was like, no, you know what, I'm going to do this. I have to do this. This is going to be so much fun. It's going to be so cool. I'm going to get to see a lot of Alaska. And I went, and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I love tour guiding. I love Alaska. I love everything. The people there, the scenery, the animals, everything. I just love going there and tour guiding. And I think that once you do it the first time, I think you'll be hooked too. A lot of people I worked with were long timers. They'd done it so many years in a row. Or I don't think I worked with but maybe a handful of people that it was their first time ever doing it. So once you do it, you get hooked. And another thing too, let me tell you this too. Another thing, the very first year I worked there, I was going there with no transportation or anything, you know. I was going to be able to do the company housing, because she was letting me keep Shaggy there with me. So I did the company housing, employee housing, but I lived quite a ways from the grocery store. There's a grocery store in Healy, a small one. Now there's a bigger one. There's a Three Bears grocery store. But when I was there was hardly anything there. There was a little fruit stand and a beer store, and you could buy soup and things like that in there. The lady I worked for, Marilyn, she would sometimes let me borrow her truck to drive into Fairbanks, which is 142, 182 miles. I don't know. It's a ways away from Healy. And so I would drive over there. And then after I was there for just a little while and I had saved up some money, I wanted to buy a car over there so I could travel around and do my own thing. So one of the other ladies that I worked with, her name was Pat, she took me to Fairbanks, and I was able to buy a car there. And I just paid I think I had saved up enough to pay $2,000 for it. And drove it all over, drove it the whole season, drove it everywhere, drove it out to Brooks Range all the way to Prudhoe Bay and just everywhere, you know, drove that car. And then when I left, I was in Anchorage because that's where I caught my flight. When I got to Anchorage, I sold it to another used car lot, and I sold it for like $1,800. So I was only out $200 for, you know, having a car for the whole summer. So, you know, you couldn't beat that. If you'd rented a car, it would have cost you $4,000 or $5,000 that you wouldn't have got back. But I bought that cheap car. It's just, you know, just a cheapy car. But it did what it was meant to do. It got me where I wanted to go. It was a good car. And I got to travel around and everything, and then it ended up that I only spent about $200 on the car. So another thing to do is that you might want to do too is to have enough money saved up to buy you one of those cheap cars, and then that way you've got your own transportation and you can see a lot more of Alaska. Now you can catch, like I've gone over before, transportation-wise in Alaska, you can catch shuttles, you can catch buses, you can rent cars, you can catch a ride with someone else that has a car, or if you're lucky like I was, you might actually get to borrow a car from somebody occasionally. But I didn't really like doing that, you know, too much, because I was always afraid that I might tear up their car or something like that, and I didn't want to do that. So, but you know, I'm going to buy my own car. So that's what I did, and I'm super glad that I did. So keep that in mind too when you're figuring out your budget and what you want to do. Kind of maybe budget a vehicle in there once you get there. If you wanted to, I think the next time I go, I'm going to try to go in 2023. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to or not. It just depends on everything. It depends on everything, a lot of different things. But if I do get to go in 2023, I'm going to, I think, so I don't have my van anymore. I sold my van, so I don't really have a vehicle right now. Stay with my sister, so I don't really need a vehicle. So what I think I'm going to do the next time I go is I'm going to fly out there, and I'm going to find me a small RV or something like that, and not do the apartment or family house or work housing or whatever. I'm going to try to get me a little RV or a little van or something, and I'm just going to live in that somewhere. I was living that somewhere because there are a lot of places that you can actually stay. You can actually stay at some of the schools. They like people to stay there. You'll have water hookups and electric and everything if you stay at some of the places. Some of the companies too that you'll work for there, they do have small campgrounds for people, and you'll have electric and water and everything. So that'll save you some money there. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, you could do that. Even if you bought one and paid $100 a month or $200 a month, it's still a lot cheaper than $700 or $800 a month for rent. So that's a way that you can save money once you get there, is just by buying a little RV or a little trailer or something like that. So just keep all of that in mind, and like I said, it's very, very important to start researching early a lot of things, where you want to be, what job you want to do, where you want to go, if you're taking your pet, if you're gonna drive or fly, or when you're gonna get there, you're gonna buy a car, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. But just base it on your hourly wage. Do not base it on your tips. And then whatever tips you get, that's extra. You can buy your family souvenirs, you know, send home, or you can save that money and just use it for whatever you want to use it for. Put in savings or whatever. But always, always, always just keep in mind that just have to budget on your hourly wage and not your tips. They're extra. So yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it. I hope this helps somebody. Even if it helps just one person, I'm happy that I made the video. I love to talk about this stuff because it's been a huge important part of my life. I love it, and I'm ready to get back into it. I've been out of it now since 2019 was the last time I got to do tour guiding. So I'm ready to get back out there sometime or another. It kind of depends on though where my long distance relationship goes, you know, because that's the most important thing to me. But we'll see. Maybe I'll just take him to Alaska with me. And so yeah, so there's a lot to consider. But even if you are just thinking about doing it, go ahead and prepare yourself. Get researched. Get ready. Pick out some places, and then if it comes around and you can't do it, you're not lost anything. But if it comes around and you do get to do it, it just gets thrown on you all of a sudden. You're like, oh gosh, I didn't do anything to prepare. I didn't do any research. I didn't do anything, and now I have to do it in like 3 weeks, a month. Don't wait to do it that way. Do it. Be prepared. Get ready. And then if it doesn't pan out and you don't get to do it, then, keep researching. Keep working on it. And then maybe the next year you can do it. Then you'll be super prepared. You'll be the best tour guide out there anywhere. So, yes, I guess that's pretty much all I had for this one. This one for my normal viewers is probably pretty boring, but if anybody watches it that wants to be a tour guide, I hope it was helpful for you. And if you have any questions or anything like that, you can just leave me a comment. I'll get back to you, and I'm always truthful. I always am just I tell you the way it is, and I tell you from my experiences and other people I know's experiences and things like that. So if you have any questions, you need any help or anything, just hit me up. I'd be glad to help you. And just want to help you too. Have a great time out there and enjoy yourself. Just love what you do. Love your job. I mean, there's no better job out there than, being on a wellboat every day. I mean, that's a dream. Most people don't get to do that, for recreation every day out on a wellboat, whale-watching boat. So it's a real blessing to get to do it, yeah. Cool. Just don't be afraid to go for it. No, don't be afraid. I was afraid, and if I'd have backed out of it and went with my fear and didn't do it, I would have never found something I love so much. You gotta sometimes take a chance and put yourself out there and deal with the fear. Let the people you know that, oh my gosh, I'm petrified. I've never done this kind of job before, and they'll help you. They really will. They'll spend a little extra time with you, and they'll help you out. So, they like new people because they like to train new people the way that they want things done. After you do it a while, you're just like, you know what? I like your script, but I know this and this and this a little bit more, and I'm just gonna incorporate that if it's okay. Most times they're like, whatever, you know what you're doing. You're a seasoned tour guide, do what you do. So, yeah. And, yeah, it's a great experience. It really is. So I hope that if you are just even thinking about it just a little bit, I hope you'll follow through with it and do it. But just start your research now. Start your budget now. Start gathering things you want to take with you now. And just, start as soon as possible, because they're going to start hiring again. This is, October or September? No, October, November, December, January. They're going to start looking for new people in just 4 months. So you want to be the first one to get your application in, your foot in the door, your interview done. You want to be one of the first ones to get all that done. So, and that's not really long. If you think about it, it's 4 months. You really should start now. There's a lot to learn when you're going to be a good tour guide. So much to learn, especially if you're going to somewhere that you've never ever been before and you have no idea. You want to research and learn all that you can learn. So I guess that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope if you are wanting to be a tour guide that you will go for it. And for everybody else out there, if you take an excursion and you have a really good tour guide that you love a whole bunch, tip them good, because they really, really, really appreciate it. And it really, really comes in handy. And we tour guides, we put in a lot of research hours. We do a lot of planning. We do a lot. And a lot of times, just $2. $2 is like little kids that used to paint the whole 2 acres of white picket fence, and the little lady gives them a quarter. That's kind of how we feel sometimes. So keep that in mind if you're watching and you're not going to be a tour guide, but you might take a tour sometime. Just be kind to your tour guides if they're good, and let them know. And hugs are always appreciated too. Especially if you're on one of my tours. I love hugs. So just keep all of that in mind. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to join my channel if you'd like to subscribe, like it, and leave me a comment, and just go for what you want to do, and yeah, it'll work out. Pray. Pray. Always pray, because that helps a lot. I guarantee you. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you, and hope you all get out there and find a beautiful view somewhere, whether it's as a tour guide and seeing beautiful views every single day out there, or if it's just somebody going on a tour and getting to see, something beautiful. There's always something beautiful out there. God is great. He's made some beautiful things in the world. So yeah, thank you guys. God bless you, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.